In this video, I want to talk about identifying the different body parts on the dress form or mannequin. You'll hear those terms interchangeably, dress form or mannequin. These are two mannequins, a woman's mannequin size 4, and the model, it is from the year 2013. It's collapsible, and I'll talk about what that means in a minute. This is a male dress form from 2008, and it's a 44 young man, and I'll talk about those different designations in a moment as well. In this costume shop, we have two ways of knowing what the sizing is on a dress form. The manufacturer tells us it's a size 4, and for easy reference, we have stenciled on the back what the chest, waist, and hip measurements are. That way it's easily, at a glance, you can tell what size the mannequin is. Mannequins have the body part here. Then there's a metal cage on the women. That's to help us drape skirts. They are on a center metal bar and then a good heavy metal stand. There's a foot pedal here that is helpful. You press down on that with your foot and you can raise or lower the mannequin that way. Many times over time the foot pedal breaks and they no longer raise or lower, but it's good to know that that is possible. This designation of collapsible means that the shoulders are collapsible. That's helpful for when you're wanting to shrink her shoulders in order to get a garment over her head and then have the shoulders pop out again. Some of the mannequins have, the mechanics inside have been broken, and so while this is a mannequin that originally had collapsible shoulders, now if you push the shoulders in, they don't come back out. The 2 or 3 mannequins we have like that are labeled, so please do not collapse the shoulders on this dress form. Thank you. Mannequins are covered with a nice linen covering, and then there's a thin layer of padding, and then inside it's a heavy cardboard. So when you're pinning, you can pin with just the lower 1/4 inch of your straight pin here, and it will stay in the mannequin nicely. That's the whole point of having the mannequin, that you can pin into it when you're draping. So on a female form, there are many seams to give the linen covering a real fitted look. And so let's just start. Here is the neck seam. This is the center front seam that goes all the way to the waist tape and then down through the lower torso. And then this is called the princess line. This creates a fit from the shoulder over the apex of the bust. It's curving down to the waist, over the hip, and down to the lower torso. This is the side seam. This piece between the princess seam and the side seam, this is called the princess panel. This is the shoulder seam at the top of the shoulder. From the shoulder down over the shoulder blade area is the side back princess seam that tapers down to the waist tape and then over the hip to the bottom. And then here at center back, from the neckline down true center back to the waist tape again, and then down to the back. And that repeats on the other side. When you're working on the bodice area, be aware of this waist tape. When you're draping, which I'll talk about in another video, you'll want to make sure to choose. Are you draping to the center of the waist tape, to the top, or the bottom? It doesn't matter. Pick one and be consistent. Also, when you're smoothing fabric and clipping, be very careful not to clip through or into this waist tape. We want to retain that. If you're working with a garment or a muslin mock-up on the form, be very careful about the marking of that. We don't want to leave any marks on the mannequin itself. Similarly, if you're doing some painting or distressing on a form, you're going to want to wrap the form in plastic before you begin work. When you're rolling a dress form, use both hands, one at the top and one at the bottom. If you just push at the top, it's far more likely that the dress form, being top-heavy, will fall and hit the floor and become dented, and then the measurements will no longer be true. On the male mannequin, the model number is stated here and the year, and then 44 is generally the chest size, and then this YM is a designation for young male. And what that indicates is that the torso is longer and the waist is slimmer than if this was a 44 male, 44M, the waist would be a little thicker. On the male mannequin, because there is no breast to add curve, the seams are a little more simple. There is the neck seam, as on the female form, the center front that runs the length of the torso. There's the same waist tape. There is the shoulder seam that is on the top of the shoulder and the side seam that runs the length of the torso. There is no side-back princess line seam as on the female mannequin. There is the center back that runs the length of the torso.